A side, B side, what side are you on?
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome
Back. We're doing the remix, evidently,
back.
for the reboot of Welcome Back, Cotter, which is just a little bit more funky than it used to be.
I could have done hello, 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 hello. Welcome back.
It sounds like the Animaniacs,
Oh gosh.
right?
I
Talk about a deep cut.
seriously, okay, so the fact that you said that made me think of this TikTok that I saw the other day, and it was like childhood. It's like one of those childhood ruin TikToks, and it's the Animaniacs, and one of them, the girl, I can't remember her name now, but she's
Uh, Dot, I
oh,
think.
I think you're right. I think you're right, and she's holding Prince, and so
Oh,
someone is like, can you fingerprints or get the fingerprints or something like that, and like they both like look at each other and they go, and she's like, I'd rather not, and I'm like, OMG, that is such an adult joke
yeah, that
that is going to
flies over the head.
completely fly over a kid's head, but
Yeah.
every adult watching that is going to totally get it, and I'm like, I cannot believe that they put that in Animaniacs.
Well, there were quite a few. Like they were pretty good with the adult jokes in there. Like they pushed the envelope with a lot of double entendres. I mean
Yeah.
I mean now I'm totally regretting that my A side is not on Animaniacs because that would be really fun. So I'm going to be falling down that black hole for a little bit. Oh yes, and
Oh,
welcome back to the A side B side podcast.
yeah. So,
Just in case you clicked on this and you're like, why are they doing a remix of Welcome Back and then
and then talking about
naturally
Animaniacs.
just rolling it Animaniacs? That's what we do.
um, went and saw The Little Mermaid because that
Yeah.
is my favorite Disney princess, and I loved it.
Did you see the story of the actress whose name I forget?
Halle
Who
Bailey,
Halle Bailey. I always want to say Halle
not
Berry.
Barry.
Halle Bailey. That she snuck into a showing, like wearing a mask and everything, just like by herself, and
Really?
nobody knew she was there. Yeah, like just as a regular, like just a regular person showing, like not like a premiere or anything. Snuck in to go to a show and like no one had any idea, and to posted about it later, and I'm sure everyone in that theater was like, "What?"
Yeah, I'm sure they were all like, OMG. I loved it. So there are some things that, like, of course, I guess nowadays you can't do the le poisson, like chasing a crab around a kitchen. That's just not, very politically correct these days. So that scene is not in the live action like it is in
Oh,
the
really?
cartoon. No.
That's so funny because I've seen. I guess it's not funny, but it's interesting. Is actually funny not funny as in haha,
Right.
but because I've seen local theater productions where in the last 5 years that have still have that scene.
I I mean, I get it, but at the same time I was like, oh man, because it's I like I said, I get it, but when you are so used to it and it's in the original and
Yeah, and I mean, yes, it is cartoonish violence and it's very stereotypical and does not kind of plays on stereotypes and
yeah.
assumptions. So I mean, I get it. But we're remaking the movie. It's like, what are you going to take? Like, is Cruella Deville just going to be like adopting all the puppies? Oh no,
uh,
she wants to give them all a home.
I will say Melissa McCarthy nailed it as Ursula. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, Halle Bailey was
Bailey.
phenomenal as Ariel. Um, there are a couple new songs, and of course, Alan Menken, who was the original songwriter, was back for this movie, and then Lin Manuel Miranda also jumped on board. And there's like one new song that is so Lin Manuel. Like I love Lin Manuel Miranda, and I don't mean this like in a negative way, but he has a certain cadence, a certain style to his songs,
Right.
and it's a very like you hear it and you're like, he wrote this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's clearly. I mean, Alan Menken wrote the role that I would play for the rest of my life every night if I could. Seymour Krelborn in Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of I love his stuff. So he's had. I didn't realize how much Disney stuff he did.
I didn't
Because
either.
in my brain it was always, Little Shop of Horrors, but no, there was a ton. I mean, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Newsies, Hercules, Home on the Range, which I guess that's still a movie.
Hmm.
Enchanted, Tangled, Disenchanted. I mean, this guy's been
He's
got it
got
done.
quite the resume. He's got quite
Yeah,
the resume.
he's got an EGOT as well. So there you go.
Oh, all right. He's one of like the what, 13 or something like
I
that.
guess it's up to 18 now,
Oh, okay.
according to the internet today.
Okay.
But still, I
Um,
mean, that's pretty impressive.
on I over the weekend I binged a couple of movies. The Mother with Jennifer Lopez. It's brand new. I mean, it's okay. It's
I mean, just like
about,
very much like an action,
yeah.
like tough lady. I mean, like it feels like there've been a lot of that style lately. I'm trying to think. There was like gunpowder milkshake
Oh yeah,
with
yeah.
with Karen Gillian, which I thought that was underrated. I don't know. I mentioned it. I don't know if we did an A side on it, but I definitely mentioned it. And then you've got like all the it's kind of seems like the whole genre that was born out of Terminator with Sarah Connor and protecting your
Mm-hmm.
kid, like T2, really, because the first one she's just running for her life. With T2, she's like, after this, I'm going to fight back, or
Right.
Sigourney Weaver in Aliens. So it's cool that it's become its own genre more in the last 10 to 15 years. Like those were like super outliers, where like you had the heroine who was like the badass and fighting back, and now it's become more common, which is cool.
Yeah. The hardest part is that I guess just buying Jennifer Lopez in this like super actiony role.
Yeah, I mean,
You
like
know.
with the one with her and Josh Duhamel, where they're like it's sort of slapstick action.
Right.
It just came out like that was like very believable, but this one seems like really like like this is like a like you would see Michelle Rodriguez or
Yeah, this
Angelina
is super
Jolie or
hardcore.
like
Like, yeah.
yeah, or like
So
some MMA person like Ronda Rousey or Carolina Juan and Guino. I can't remember her last name, but she was in the Star Wars. She was in the Mandalorian for a little bit. I'm saying her name completely wrong. Anyway, she was in MMA as well. But so Jennifer Lopez, not Jenny from the Block, is not who you would expect.
right. Yeah.
Well, beating people up. But
The other one I watched was Missing, which that's the Nia Long movie where her daughter, oh goodness, Storm Reed, um Nia Long goes on like vacation with her boyfriend, and then her daughter goes to pick her up from the airport, and then she's like gone. And it's I think it's A24, but they've done this style of movie before where everything is on a screen. You're not actually looking at the person. Everything happens through either a phone or it's like they're on
oh, okay,
FaceTime.
yeah, yeah,
There have been a couple of movies like that.
yeah. There've been like a bunch of like social media horror, like unfriended or like
Yes.
friend requests, where like the entire thing is filmed on Zoom or that's like it was. We're probably going to get back to stuff like that with the writer's strike because who knows what they're going to come up with without
Right.
writers. It's going to be all AI. So
So
that'll be fun.
that's how that one is shot, and it's interesting, and it's pretty good. And then you'll like this one, Adam, or you'll hate it. I don't know. Um, Arnold Schwarzenegger has that new series called
Yeah,
Fubar.
Fubar. Yeah,
I'm
and
not gonna lie, I loved it. I loved it. It was so bad. It was so cheesy, but I loved every minute.
this I love how he's just leading into it, just kind of being cheesy and over the top. Like the Last Stand with him and like Johnny Knoxville, uh, from like 6 or 7 years ago is one of the funnest just action movies that I you will can whenever it's on I'll watch it or sometimes I'll just throw it on as an escape. But and he somehow I don't know when I signed up for his email list, but he's been sending out like daily emails, and like it's like half like hey here's a workout routine because obviously Arnold and I are doing the same workout
Right. Oh
routines.
yeah, 100%.
I mean, honestly, it's probably closer now that I might be like he's in his 70s, so maybe I could do some of the stuff that he was doing when he was in his 40s. I
Mm,
could. I know.
mm.
You know me and signing up for stuff. Evidently tomorrow I'm supposed to do 100 push-ups a day for the month of June. So we'll see how that goes. I clicked on something on Facebook and I'm in a group and everyone's like, all right, I'm doing 10 every, 30 minutes. I'm like, what? Hold up. This is real? We're doing this? What did I click? But I'm also in, but he's all of a sudden sending like daily emails talking about the Fubar series and doing like behind the scenes stuff, and but also like, here's a quote for the day, and here's like your daily motivation. Like, if you're working on your triceps, try this. And I'm like, what's a tricep? Is that a dinosaur?
A triceratops.
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Triceratops Rex.
It's the one with the three horns, right?
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks really fun. I've not seen that one. I think I mentioned last week I finally got caught up on all the Marvel stuff. The new Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I've been at the lake since Saturday, and we had graduation on Friday, and it was track meet on Thursday. So I only thing I've really watched on a screen in the last couple of days is, now that I'm with my folks, they've caught up to season 3, so we've been watching season 3 of Ted Lasso every couple of an episode every couple of nights. So I'm finally getting to season 3 and getting caught up with everybody else. But it's been a lot of fun to, as I said before, watch it with them and kind of have something light, because all of their shows are like detective and cop shows, so
right.
Don't laugh very often.
Well, you know that yesterday was the release of the last episode.
Yes, yeah. So I am still on like episode 4 of the season, so I have been trying hard to avoid spoilers, because I don't want to really see. And the nice part is there's so much stuff out there
Mm-hmm.
that you can avoid spoilers. I feel like when like Game of Thrones was at its peak, it was really hard to avoid
Yeah.
spoilers.
Yeah.
Like you'd have to like actively avoid it. But even with like the Marvel movies that have come out recently, I don't feel like I have to watch them within the first, weekend, because it's not going to get spoiled, because there's so many things to talk about. Like, I know Succession just ended this last weekend, and I have friends that are massively into Succession. And I've watched the first season, and it's good. It's also just like really intense. It's
Never
one of
watched
those.
an episode.
I mean, it's good. It's well done, but they're also like not really likable people. And I don't know if people hate watch it, or they root for which unlikable person is going to be the one that ruins everybody else. But it's kind of like, it feels like watching a reality show, uh, where like you don't really have anybody to cheer for.
Yeah,
like there's no nice people on the island, and you're just like, can the island just sink?
Right. I think that's why people watch it. It's like there's so many like good shows out there that you're like, I just want a show where I don't like anybody, and if something bad happens to all of them, fine. Like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Like I've also never watched an episode of Yellowstone. I know people are super into Yellowstone, and I was literally in a restaurant here in central Wisconsin because I'm on vacation visiting my folks, and they had like a knockoff Dutton Ranch hoodie that they were selling at a random like small town bar restaurant in Wisconsin. And I'm just looking around, I'm like, we are not in Yellowstone. Like, what is going on? It's been a nice culture shock for me to be out of the city, because I'm such a city boy, and I'm so far from a sidewalk that it scares me. And you got like nature everywhere. Took the dog for a walk a couple days ago, and we got all these little red ticks on them. So I'm now like searching through their hair like they've got, they're like a 5-year-old with lice, with like a comb, trying to make sure I get every single one of them each time we go out, which is terrifying. Because you ever like you find a bug, and then for the next like 3 hours you feel bugs crawling on you.
Absolutely.
Oh, that is like the worst torture.
Yes.
Like I understand waterboarding is bad, but if we just told like people that we were interrogating that they had bugs all over them, and like showed them one bug, and then we just kept telling them there were more bugs, they would just drive themselves crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm just coming up with new and fun ways to torture. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Well, this week is episode 137. Can you
That
believe
was a
it?
very long 137. 7.
137. I was like stressing it. Like, can you believe it's 137?
It's kind of, and we've been, like we're closing in on 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
because we've
Yeah.
we've
What,
we've we've
July?
missed a couple weeks. Yeah, it was July of 2020. So, this puts Adam's traditional relationships that end within 3 years to the test. So
Oh boy.
that's usually the expiration date. So we're going on about 42 years of history here to see if we can break it.
We will break it. We will break it. We will break it. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
usually my partners are chanting things like, we will break it, but not in an exciting way.
no, no, I'm not gonna break you. We're gonna break the
The the the,
cycle.
the cycle. There we go.
Break the cycle. All right. So 137, which means I go first.
Excellent.
Normally when we talk about female killers,
Hmm.
we've even the serial killers, it's typically uh, loved ones, family members, financial gain, and it's typically not violent. It's
Yeah,
usually like poison. I'm just
poison. Yeah, it's not like, that's why. So I married an axe murderer seems so absurd because
Mhm.
like just women don't tend to be, we don't have any, like, if you think about like horror like monster, you've got like Jason and Freddy, but like all the female like horror characters are like ghosts and witches. It's rarely like I brought a chainsaw.
Yeah. It's very, very rare to find a woman who's violent. We've talked about Catherine Knight before in Australia, she was on the violent side, but also it was violence with her spouses and
Hmm.
boyfriends.
Yeah,
So
wasn't
it
strangers.
wasn't strangers. Now, we've not talked about this case, but this was a case back home that got talked about a lot. Carla Homolka and Paul Bernardo, they were called the Ken and Barbie murderers because they did get violent with strangers. Actually, Carla's sister was one of their victims. I mean, and they pushed the boundaries of disgusting, and they videotaped it.
Mm, great. It was like natural born killers style.
They were terrible. But
Bonnie and Clyde, but a new generation.
about a decade before Carla and Paul, there was Alvin and Judith. Alvin Howard Neelley Jr., was born 1953 in Georgia. He started his life of crime early. He's a car thief as a teenager, and he just gets into all sorts of trouble. He gets married. That doesn't last long. Ends up meeting his second wife, her name Judith Ann Adams, when he was 26 years old. She was 15.
Yikes.
He ends up divorcing his first wife so he can elope with 15-year-old Judith.
Yeah,
Gross.
that doesn't sound legal.
Mm. Judith Ann Adams / Neelley was born in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We both know about Murfreesboro.
Hmm.
She was born on June 7th, in 1964. Unfortunately, she lost her father when she was really young. He had a drinking problem and he died in a motorcycle accident when she was 9. Again, she meets Alvin Neelley when she's 15 years old. They elope in 1980 and then begins their joint life of crime. They start by committing armed robberies, like you said, natural born killers. I think didn't they start off as like armed robbers or something in that movie?
I think so. And I know that was a retelling of Bonnie and Clyde, who were bank robbers.
Yeah.
It almost becomes a uh like dramatized and glorified it a little bit, romanticized. Two lovers on the run.
It's yeah, I don't get it. So Carla, sorry. So Judith and Alvin, they're on their life of crime. They're robbing banks or they're not banks. They're just doing armed robberies. She is actually pregnant during one of their crime sprees. She's pregnant
Yikes.
with twins. She gets caught. She ends up incarcerated in Georgia's Youth Development Center in Rome, Georgia, where she gives birth to her twins. While she's in this youth development center on September 11th of 1982, A man named Ken Dooley, who actually worked at the Youth Development Center, ended up shot 4 times. The next day, another employee's home, her name is Linda Adair, her home ends up firebombed with a Molotov cocktail.
Subtle.
Right. Somebody's trying to send a message.
Mm-hmm.
So the victims end up receiving phone calls by a female who claims that she was abused at the Youth Development Center, but no one is ever able to identify the voice of this female caller who has called these victims. This is, the 80s. There is no caller ID.
Right. We didn't, like Star 69 didn't even come out until the 90s.
Right. On September 29th, just a few days after the shots and the fire bombs, a call comes in to the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office. This caller, this female caller, presumed to be the same female that called the other people, says that she wants to give detailed directions to the location of a young woman's body.
Oh.
That woman is Lisa Ann Milliken. So Deputy James May and a couple of other police officers from around the county go out to this area that is described by this body, this female, and they go out to this area described by this female, and they find the body of 13-year-old Lisa Ann Milliken. Lisa Ann was born March 18th of 1969, and she was from Cedartown, Georgia. She was actually abducted by the Neelleys 3 days earlier on September 25th. She's outside of the Eckelharpst home. It's a facility for abused and neglected boys and girls in Cedartown. And it was outside of this home. She ends up separated, and they get her to come with them to go to the mall's video arcade. Kids, teenagers, like when we were kids, that was the thing to do. You want to go to the arcade.
Yeah, you couldn't play Candy Crush on your phone because you didn't have a phone and there was no Candy Crush.
Man,
so you went
Centipede was the jam.
Yeah. Galaga.
Okay.
I will still
Galaga.
lose fistful of quarters to Galaga anytime I can find it.
My mom and I used to play Mrs. Pac-Man. It had to be Mrs. Pac-Man. It couldn't be regular Pac-Man for my mom. It had to be Mrs. Pac-Man.
Well, she was looking for some, representation in popular culture at the time, and there wasn't a lot. And here was a married individual out there still working.
She was getting the job done. Okay.
Yeah. No waiting for Mr. Pac-Man to come home. I'm going to take care of this myself. Get rid of these ghosts.
So Lisa Ann is convinced by the Neelleys to go to the arcade. They get her to go to the arcade, and then after they take her to a motel in Alabama. It's there that they hold her captive for several days. And while she's there held captive, they end up sexually assaulting, raping her multiple times. Then on September 28th, Judith somehow, some way finds a needle. She gets Drano, and she injects Lisa Ann Milliken with this Drano.
Yikes. That sounds a horrible way to go.
She ends up injecting both sides of her neck, both of her arms, and both of her butt cheeks in an attempt to poison her. Liquid plumber is also added to the mixture in an effort to poison her. Yeah.
And this doesn't work? In Heather's, it was one glass. You're done.
It doesn't work. They do end up killing her, but not with the poison. So the poison doesn't work. It's painful. I mean, I can't imagine the excruciating pain she's in with this stuff coursing through her veins. It doesn't. But when it fails to kill her, Judith shoots Lisa execution style.
Good God.
They then take her body to a cliff in the Little River Canyon in Fort Payne, Alabama, where they throw her over. And this is where Judith leads the police to on the 29th of September when she calls.
And she calls in, and not because she wants the body found, probably, but because they want credit or something.
Because the location of her body was off of this cliff in this canyon, and had they not been notified, Lisa probably never would have been found, and they wouldn't be talked about. They wouldn't get
their notoriety for.
Janice Chapman and John Hancock were a young, happy, engaged couple. They're looking forward to their life together. They're from Rome, Georgia, and they're just like, they're young and in love and just like full of hope. And oh man, our lives together are going to be great. Well, on October 4th of 1982, they're abducted by Judith Neelley. John is shot while Janice is kidnapped, and they take her back to Judith takes Janice back to the motel room where she ends up tortured and murdered. John somehow, some way, after being shot, is able to survive.
Oh, wow.
And this is key to the Neelleys being
caught.
Kenneth Hines, he's the lead detective of the case of the Neelleys, and he followed the Neelleys for 3 weeks before he's able to apprehend them in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Judith is arrested just a few days later after the kidnapping and shooting of Janice and John. She's arrested on October 9th of 1982. Alvin Neelley is taken into custody just a few days after that. Judith, they figured, was the perpetrator in the youth development attacks because they were able to place her making that phone call for Lisa, and the voice was similar to the one that called the other victims.
Right. But I mean, without like full detail or full, there's no way to truly prove it unless she confesses, because they don't have any caller ID or voice print or anything.
Well, that's where Alvin comes in. Alvin confesses, and to avoid the death penalty, he pleads guilty to murder and aggravated assault. He was not tried for Lisa Ann Milliken's murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. Judith, however, was tried for the murder of Lisa Ann Milliken. Her trial begins March 7th of 1984. This would be right before she gave birth to her third child, again behind bars. So she has never given birth as a free woman. The trial lasts just for 6 weeks, and Judith is convicted of the torture and murder of Lisa Ann Milliken. The jury recommended to sentence her to life in prison. However, as a judge can do, Judge Randall Cole sentenced her to death by electric chair in Alabama.
Wow.
After she is convicted, she then pleads guilty to the murder of Janice Chapman. Alvin Neelley is incarcerated at the Bostic State Prison from the date that he is convicted in 1983 until his death in October of 2005. At 18 years old, Judith Neelley becomes the youngest woman in the U.S. to be sentenced to death. She's placed on Alabama's death row at the Julia Tutwiler Prison for Women. She appealed for a new trial, but she was denied in March of 1987. In 1989, the U.S. Supreme Court says, yep, you gonna die. They affirm basically her death sentence.
Yeah.
On January 15th of 1999, Judith is within days of her execution when then Governor Fob James commutes her sentence to life in prison with the possibility of parole in another 15 years. Of course, this is a very controversial decision, but the governor he's been known for his tough stance on crime. He cited his reasoning for commuting the sentence, the jury's recommendation for Judith being sentenced to life in prison. Judith would have been eligible for parole in January of 2014 at the age of 49, but Alabama legislature passed a law in 2003 that made her ineligible.
Oh.
The reason that we're talking about this case actually is because she just went before the parole board again this past week.
Oh my goodness.
And she was yet again denied parole.
I think that's probably good. She's been in prison for more than she was alive for before she was in prison. And someone that depraved, I mean, I don't know. I think we've talked about this before. It's like you wonder if life in prison is actually a worse sentence than death for some people.
It's funny because you just said depraved, and the former district attorney, Mike Odell, he actually spoke at the parole hearing last week, and he said she killed for simple sport and she is evil and depraved. So it's very fitting that you said that. The parole hearing only lasted for 23 minutes,
Dang.
and
That's barely enough time to like mention who's all in attendance.
I know. But get this part, the board actually deliberated for 3 minutes before unanimously denying her bid for parole. She had no advocates or attorneys on her behalf. 8 people testified against her.
Wow.
So her next hearing for parole right now is set for May of 2028. She probably will never ever make parole.
I feel like I would have it would be a hard time to be known as the parole board that let her out after all these years.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a tough thing to have in your resume.
Yeah, I don't want to have that associated with me.
No.
On February 28th of 2008, the Neelley's case was profiled on Investigation Discovery's program Most Evil. Michael Stone, a forensics psychiatrist, he ranked Judith on the serial killer scale category. He gave her a category 22, which deems her the most evil. That's like the most evil level for serial torture murderers.
You gotta love the people whose scale just like completely makes no logical sense.
Like 22.
Like what is it? What like could we just go with like this scale goes to 11? Okay, fine.
Right. On a scale of 1 to 5, you're a 5. Actually, you're a 7.5 because you're that bad. But 22, sure, whatever.
22. I was like, all right, well, I'm sure it's probably one of those scales where like there's no top number. There's just like all these different, points you can get. And, like you got so many bad points, but that's impressive.
The Neelleys were also featured on Wicked Attraction, and Judith was featured on Deadly Women. Well, they both, but Deadly Women is about the women, so she was, prominently featured. But there you go. That is the story of Judith Ann Neelley and Alvin Neelley, and how horrific and terrible and torturous and disgusting they are. And again, the reason we decided to do it this week is because I had seen that she had just been denied parole.
Yeah, that is the rare do we get ripped from the headlines on the B side, but this is some fresh information. Yeah,
dripping fresh.
Dripping, yeah, dripping is probably not what we would go with there.
Oh well, yeah, okay, that's probably not the best word, yeah. But yeah, there you go. But there you have it. That's the B side.
All right, so we mentioned earlier that I am on vacation and I am a city boy stuck out in the woods. I'm trying to, I'm enjoying it. I love being at the lake, but it is a big, like, culture shock for me who, does not, use a car normally, has public transportation, walks everywhere. It's not something that you can really do when you are like 2 miles from the closest, gas station, let alone, store or anything like that. But I've been trying to embrace it. And I haven't been watching too much TV. I woke up this morning and I was very concerned because I was like, I haven't really watched anything in like 5 days since the last podcast.
Oh no, I haven't watched TV.
I haven't watched TV. This is really weird for me. I've been like trying to like I brought my book and I'm reading and I'm trying to be more in the moment. And I was like, oh crud, what the heck am I going to talk about tonight? But one of the things that I enjoy doing when I come to visit my folks, and it's ironic because I used to hate having to do it when I was a kid, and even for 10 years we lived on streets that were right next to each other, like adjacent streets, and our backyards touched. So my dad decided that he would buy a riding lawnmower. So then we use it for both yards because it justified having a riding lawnmower, even though we really didn't have that much space. So for 10 years, I mowed the lawn with this same lawnmower. And today I got up and I said, you know what? I'm gonna mow the lawn. I want to do this. I want to help out my folks. I haven't done it in like a year since since last fall when I was visiting. So it's become fun when it used to be a chore. But the problem when you don't do things very often is evidently you forget how to do them.
You forgot how to mow the lawn?
To use the mower,
okay.
I got on our little Cub Cadet tractor, which I have, it's a tractor. It's, it's a lawn tractor, but I always have very much enjoyed it. It's like my little go-kart. And I hopped on I couldn't figure out how to make it back up. Once I finally figured out how to make it go in reverse, I went and I didn't even notice it at first. I did a full like loop around the yard with it not running because it's a lawn tractor, so you've got the motor, but then you've got it separate. Then you got to turn on the actual blade. So I just drove around the yard on my little go kart until my dad like finally flagged me down. He was like, it's not on, right? And so I was sitting there very sheepishly, city boy on his lawn tractor, feeling the least country as possible. And the only thing that could pop into my mind at that moment was how this was the exact opposite of the greatest country song of all time. If anyone had been watching, no one would think that I was sexy on my tractor or that my tractor was sexy. So for the rest of the day, I have had Kenny Chesney stuck in my head. In fact, I was texting a friend who was showing like pictures, like, look at me, I'm on a lawn tractor. And I got a silly hat on. My dad, it's not a cowboy hat, but it's kind of like one of those safari hats, because I didn't want to get burnt on my shoulders and everything. And I feel ridiculous. And the entire day, she thinks my tractor sexy is running through my head. And so I had to, when you get a song stuck in your head, you have to go listen to it. Because that's, for me, that's the only way I can get it out of my head. If I listen to the song, usually because then I realize what it actually sounds like, because it's always a little bit different in my brain. Like there's like a little DJ in my head who's kind of like remixing it just wrong lyric. Like it's way shorter than it is. It's just the chorus on repeated. So today for the A side, we haven't looked at music in a while. We're going to talk about what I think is the most country song of all time. It is
Oh, wow.
smart in that it is silly, but it is completely honest and happy, and it launched the career of one of the top selling country artists of the last 25 years. He is now, I guess he'd probably be considered an oldie. I mean, Brooke, you are the expert in country music on this podcast. Is Kenny Chesney still playing on
Oh, yeah.
in rotation? Is he still putting out music?
I mean, he was just here not too long ago for concert.
Right, but I mean, like, you could tour on your old stuff.
True.
Forever.
No, he's got some new-ish stuff.
Was he at the ACMs that you announced just a couple weeks ago?
No.
He was not.
No.
So he's probably not in the forefront of modern country music minds as he was 20 years ago.
No.
But I stumbled upon She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy when I was in high school 24 years ago. And I literally thought it was a Weird Al parody song.
Oh, wow. Really?
I did. I was like, there's no way. We're real. Like, this has got to be, they're making fun of country music. And it's the brilliance of the song in that it is very tongue in cheek, but also super, super proud. So it came out in 1999. It was the first single off of Kenny Chesney's album that was entitled Everywhere We Go. One of the things that it took me years to learn, and in fact, I did not learn until I went to Nashville when we were working together in Bowling Green. I think we had a radiothon at the Grand Ole Opry or the Opryland.
Yes.
And so I was down there, and I actually got to go around Nashville, and how much of country music is performed by artists, but there's always often other people that write the songs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where in my head, I never thought about that. That happens in every vein of music, but it seems like Nashville and country music is a lot more open about like, hey, somebody else wrote this song. This wasn't just, me and, writing it myself. It was, and those songwriters themselves who don't become huge, stars, but are still, famous in their own way. Like there's in Nashville, I was going down, I think there's this street where a lot of the old record companies were all on kind of the same street. And there was this billboard, and instead of showing like all the big name stars, it was promoting all of the writers that worked for this company, and all the, all the songs that they had written. And I'm sitting there going, wow, I thought that was a such and such song. I didn't know these were written by somebody else. So the song She Thinks My Tractor Sexy was written by Jim Collins and Paul Overstreet. Collins has written for artists like Tim McGraw and Trace Atkins, and Overstreet is also a renowned songwriter in the country music industry. It was a massive hit. I did not realize that it was such a massive hit that it charted on both the Billboard Hot 100 and the Billboard Hot Country. It got to all the way up to number 11 on the Billboard Hot 100. So this was playing on pop radio. It was probably playing on like some rock radio. It was definitely playing on country radio. The song was absolutely everywhere. And it was because it didn't take itself too seriously, but also seemed absolutely genuine. And that this guy loves his tractor. He is so proud of his tractor. He's proud of who he is. And he believes that women will like him because he has a cool tractor. It was the opposite of like, I've got like the little red Corvette, or, Deuce Coupe, or, like having a cool car. He's like, no, this is my cool car, and it's a tractor.
My tractor, baby.
Listen, my tractor is like and the music video, which we will have linked on our website, asidebsidepodcast.square.site, where we have all of our links to our sources, and also anything else that factors into the A side or the B side. You have to go watch the music video. And so I know I get in trouble often for reviewing stuff that no one can find, but you can watch the music video on YouTube. You can listen to it. You listen to the song on Spotify, on Apple Music, on Amazon Music. It still holds up in the tongue-in-cheek but completely genuine, fun, silly way. It is hard not to sing along. I mean, if the song comes on,
go ahead and do it,
and you're in pub, no, we can't because we don't want to get sued. Have to pay the rights.
Whatever.
That's the only reason I'm not going to sing it. I've actually been shocked that I've been going to karaoke pretty regularly for about the last year to a local place, and I feel like I've heard almost every song that you could hear, and a lot of songs you should never hear at karaoke. But I have never ever heard She Thinks My Tractor Sexy at karaoke, which likely will be remedied here, maybe in the next week or so. But it launched his career. It had the irony of me thinking it was a parody. It was something by Weird Al. It actually had its own parody by Cletus T. Judd, who his 2000
album. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
that's such a name I haven't heard forever.
In 2000, on his album Just Another Day in Parodies, which in itself is a title parody, which is kind of brilliant. He has a song called "My Cellmate Thinks I'm Sexy." A little bit more the B side there than the A side.
Yeah.
And then Chesney himself, even in 2004's "When the Sun Goes Down," which is a duet with Uncle Kracker. That's another name you probably haven't heard in a while.
Oh my gosh.
He sings "She Thinks Cracker's Sexy," calling back to his own one of his first big hits. So if you are a city person like me, and you have not mowed a lawn in a long time, and you can't figure out how the lawn tractor works, but you still got the cool hat, you can always hope that someone has seen you mowing the lawn and thinks that your tractor's sexy, and maybe you're getting a little, I think the kids call it Riz, off of the tractor as well. So if you have not listened to it, I know, look at me using new terms. I'm signed up to an email list that's for parents. It's like defining words, so it's pretty great, very very useful. I think the email list is for Britain knows, because there's some very strange definitions that I don't really understand. It's not helpful when you've got a definition that has words you don't understand. Then you got to get another definition for that word and just go down a black hole. But today it is, we are in June. It is hot out. It was like almost 90 here today. After mowing, I could not get cool down. I took a shower and I felt like I was still sweating in the shower. But the entire time, She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy was running through my head. So even if you're having a bad day and you're sweating, it's a fun song and it will change your attitude. And I hope that you have a better experience mowing the lawn than me, because I ended up doing certain areas twice because I forgot to turn the mower on.
Because your tractor wasn't as sexy as you thought it was?
But the tractor was sexy. The operator was not very sexy or very smart. And a little overconfident, being like, "Oh, I got this," and then I could still see my father's face trying to, like, because it's loud, and he's trying to like signal to me like, "Hey, it's not loud enough because only one of the things is on," and he's trying not to laugh. As City Slicker Theater Boy over here is trying to mow the lawn without a blade that's running. So check out She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy today. A video will be on our website, and of course you can find it on all the streaming services. And one thing I love is that Kenny Chesney is like the ultimate cowboy. He just never takes his hat off.
His baseball cap at that. Well, no, I take that back. He does wear a cowboy hat.
He's got a cowboy hat or a baseball hat. He's always got a hat on.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what happens when the national anthem is playing and he's there, because I feel like those are two like cultural touchstones that you're gonna like rock in a hard place. Doesn't take his hat off, but you have to for the anthem. I'd kind of like to be there someday to see what happens.
No Shoes Nation doesn't have to take their hat off. Okay.
There you go. Yeah, it was like his stuff was always just fun, and like I want to be on a beach. Yeah,
which is where he lives like 90% of the time.
I mean, if I had sang and had the money from She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy, I too would live on a beach somewhere.
Some beach. That's a different song, but anyway.
I know. It's another country song. They all sound alike. I just did an entire A-side lauding country music and then offended every country music listener with my last sentence. That's classic Adam.
But Blake Shelton, who sings Some Beach, he used to wear a cowboy hat all the time.
Well, and he's got a really nice head of hair, so I understand why he takes his off. I think Ketty and I are dealing with the same hair situation.
Oh, man. All right, so is that the A-side?
That is the A-side.
Awesome. Well, Adam, you know the deal.
Yeah, so if you want to see the video, which is a lot of fun, if you see Kenny Chesney dancing on top of a tractor, go to our website, asidebsidepodcast.square.site. And you can get all of the links, the videos. You can also check out our merch there. If you've just stumbled upon this podcast for the first time and you're still listening, thank you very much. I'm shocked and amazed. But if you want to shock and amaze me some more.
Don't say that.
Well, I'm shocked and amazed you stumbled upon it, because clearly everyone's heard of us by now.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Third biggest podcast in the nation.
Yes.
In our minds.
That has two people that do it from remote locations that use the term A-side, B-side. So I think there's at least 3 of those out there. Yes, check out if you just stumbled upon us, please like, share, subscribe. If you go to our website, you can find links to every one of the streaming services, so your favorite one will be on there. You can follow us there and get updated every time we have a new episode, which come out every Friday. We've also got merchandise on the website and all of our old episodes, of which there are 136 others. Mm-hmm. So if you want to kill about a week and a half, you can listen to us nonstop. And if you do that and you stream it on YouTube, I will definitely give you a like.
Me too.
That's 2 likes. Look at that. Boom. 2 likes right away. So, yeah, check out our website. And did I miss anything, Brooke? Oh, yes. Buy Brooke a coffee. Mm-hmm. So go to Buy Us a Coffee and type in A-Side, B-Side podcast. And you can buy Brooke a coffee, because she has to edit all of this together. And that is no easy task. If you can see if you can hear how fast I'm talking right now, you can imagine that there are a lot of things that I say that do not make sense, that Brooke has to redo and make me sound slightly coherent. So just imagine how much worse it would be.
All right. There you have it. Another episode of A-Side, B-Side podcast. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Brooke.